Hey, this is going to be the third video in the series of three on fan animations, and we're going to talk about inner classes. Now, before I go into the inner class code, I forgot to mention that with the normal technique of separating all your code into different classes, these classes have to be in separate files. So this version 2 had 4 separate files, which isn't hard to manage, not a big deal, but what you're going to enjoy with the interclass stuff is that everything gets put in one big file. So let's take a look at file animation 3, come down to the default package right there, and there's just one file. There you go. It looks very, very similar to the version 2. The one thing that you're going to notice, though, is that this code here has inner classes. You have a class that's buried inside an outer class. The advantage of having that is that inner classes only exist for the benefit of the outer class. This is the parent class. The parent, in a sense, you could think of these classes as being there only to service the parent. That's the only thing. And you could make these inner classes private, and that certainly says that the world can't see it. This world can't see this app GUI anyway, being an inner class. It's very difficult to see this. When you have an inner class, it's very difficult to go into a parent class. It's not impossible, but making it private will certainly cut off all ties to the outside world. And the advantage of having an inner class is that the inner class has access to the parent's variables. This is the parent's variables right here. Remember those two variables, the animation and the fan? You could make those instance variables of the fan animation, the parent class, and the whole world, as so to speak, has access to those variables, and you have direct access to the parent variables, even though you make them private. All right. And so the start method looks pretty much the same. I don't need any getter for this because remember in the second version I had to have a get fan in order to get this code working. App GUI being inside the pane here, app GUI being an inner class. See, when it creates this fan pane equals fan, notice what happens is it has access to this global variable. Now you might ask, what goes into as a global variable? A global instance variable, you only make things that you plan to interact with global. Don't go crazy with creating a whole bunch of variables globally, because then there's the need to know principle. The world doesn't need to know all about the little minute details that a method has. Okay? The world does need to know about the fan, because the whole idea behind this application is you want to manipulate a fan, and you're going to need to manipulate an animation object. And so make those two. And those are the only two things that you really should make available. And the rest of the code is pretty much the same here. See, this is a local variable. I don't make the buttons pane available. I don't plan to interact with a control buttons pane, so I don't put it up here. The control buttons pane has access to the animation. See, it has access to the fan. In fact, I don't have to pass those parameters in there. Control buttons pane. Before in version 2, I needed to pass those two values as parameters. I don't need to do that now because by virtue of being an inner class, I have access to those fields up here. So it's really convenient to have this. Now, one thing that you have to understand too is, do not do this dot. I told people, originally I said you always use this dot. Well, this dot will screw your inner class a lot, because what this basically says is this refers to the app GUI. And so what the system says is, there a instance variable inside the app GUI that's called fan. Well, no, there isn't. There's an instance variable in the parent. Now, if you're insistent upon using this, then you have to go through and say, hey, fan, what's it called? What's the main program called? Fan animation dot this, and that says to the system, hey, the this that you're referring to refers to the instance of the fan animation which contains the fan. This gets old real quick. You don't need to do all this. What you need to just say, just don't specify this, and the system is going to say, hey, you want to assign to an animation? Oh, where's it defined? I don't have it defined anywhere in my GUI. Then since it's an inner class, is it defined in the parent? Sure, it's right there. That's the one that you're going to use. That's what you need to understand there with inner classes. So the control buttons pane really didn't change much other than you don't need to pass the parameters. The fan pane also is an inner class. Same code. I think it's exactly the same code. Exactly the same code. So I think you're going to enjoy inner classes. All right, that's the version 3, and there's not much more to say. Now, that's it. We'll see you we're probably not going to talk about Chapter 16. Chapter 16 involves basically the same thing as Chapter 15, but only more advanced control components, and I don't know if there's much to be gained by that. They have slider components and drop-down boxes. You know how to handle buttons. If you know how to handle a button, you know how to handle a slider. You know how to handle any of those more complicated components. I think the next major thing that we're going to talk about is networking. Okay, and so we might also have to have a Zoom class on networking. So that'll be exciting. Anyway, we'll see you soon. Bye.